All right, well, I want to say thank you for all for coming tonight. It's going to be a fun little occasion here tonight, right, Jane?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're here tonight to honor the Morning Optimist Citizen of the Year, Jane Bauer. But before we honor Jane, we want to do a couple things. One is to thank the Morning Optimist for this great event. And not only that, thanks for all you do in the community with the Morning Optimist. Their theme is dealing with making the kids the best they can be. And we want to thank them for all they do for the kids in our community. So let's have a round of applause for the Optimists. And all right, I think they're mostly in the back. Will you please stand up? Those are in the Morning Optimist, please. Then give yourselves great seats. But obviously they're doing great things for kids, and one of the things out there, Heather Van Buren, Cynthia Ragland, and myself would like to say thank you. Just last week, one of their fine things they did, they made a very generous gift to the Roundhouse renovation project that we have going on, so thank you very much for that. Didn't think I'd get away without saying something about the Roundhouse renovation, did you? Yeah, we are still taking contributions. Don't take it away from the Morning Optimist, but no, for you, give us a contribution. Right, so. Also, prior to starting the roast, we want to welcome James' family, who are in here tonight, and we want to thank them very much for coming. First of all, the one that didn't want to come is her husband, Bob. Thanks for coming. There will only be small collateral damage, don't worry. Next, we're going to start with the oldest daughter, Cynthia Ragland, up front here. With her naive husband, Craig, up here. Her son, Bo, daughter, Jane, and son, Davis. Secondly, we have Mandy, who is in here from Clareton Hills, Illinois. And she's here with her daughter, Olivia, and son, Emmett. And lastly, we'd like to thank the baby of the family, son, Mike. Yeah, you guys like that, yeah. And his wife, Cindy, and their children, Brooke and Grant. A couple things. I think it's damn sweet, Mike, that you waited to find a girl who had a name close to your sister's, Cindy, so you could remember her every day of your life. And that you moved to Clareton Hills also to be close to your other sister. What a nice young man you are.
Freaky man.
Freaky man. But Jane does want you, the family, to know that she does love you very, very much, and that she will need your comfort and nurturing after this event tonight. So, moving on to our Citizen of the Year roast. Wonderful. Nice. Kind. What the hell? Oops. I'm sorry, that was last year's winner. Oh, here, yeah, this is right. Demanding, aggressive, controlling. Got Jane there. Got the right one. No, but before we really get to these other folks roasting, I was asked also by Jane to give a few impressions of herself. Not impressions, impressions. So there's two things about Jane. That's two different things, but I intertwine into one story. And Jane, listen carefully for this first sentence. Yeah, turn it up, sister. Listen carefully. I think Jane is a hoarder. I think she has a house full of phones. She hoards the phones. I also think she has voices in her head, particularly the word yes. Mike, this is a true story. I mean, all these stories tonight are true. Because I was in my office one day, like a lot of days, and my phone rang. I got the ring, bring, bring. I look at my phone. I don't recognize that number. So I answer it. I'm trying to screen my calls. Hello, this is Gary.
Hi, this is Jane Bauer. Thanks for taking my call. I know you're so polite and always taking my calls.
Damn, that's what I was screening for. You gotta understand, I've got 8 different numbers in my phone that are her that I'm trying to screen for. Here comes number 9. I can't do it.
Well, Gary, would you like to be a judge for the Happy Feet contest?
I asked, what's the date?
Oh, that's wonderful. You said yes. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Wow, I just always say yes, and thanks for taking my call.
So a week later. By the way, I put that number in my phone. 9 different numbers. Jane is not going to bother me now. But she hoards phones. My phone rings again. Hello, this is Gary.
Oh, Gary, you took my call. That is so wonderful. It's wonderful. It's great. It's super. Wow. I got to ask another favor of you. Will you MC my Citizen of the Year deal?
Where is it being held?
Oh, that is so nice. You said yes again. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's great.
Voices in her head. Now her husband Bob has had similar situations. I know he's screening her calls too. You think I'm kidding? He's out working the yard one day. His phone rings. Doesn't recognize the number. Says to himself, thank God it's not the old ball and chain this time. But, thinking it might be the Hooters girls or the lumberyard calling, he goes, hello, this is Bob.
Well, Bob, how are you? Good to hear you.
Didn't recognize the number there either. Bob, response, I've already given her that fundraiser, thank you. So, if there's any councilmen, legislatures, anybody out here that can help me, I would certainly love to quickly pass a Jane Bauer do not call list, please. Well enough with my problems. Let's move on to the roasters. But speaking of the roasters, that call I talked about earlier where she said, hey, wanted me to MC this deal. And I, obviously kind of didn't say yes, but I said yes. So I said, well, who's going to be the roasters? And she quickly rattled off John Hermanson, Steve Van Buren, Craig Reagan. I stopped her. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. You got me, you got Steve, you got Craig, you got John. Didn't let her finish. I said, let me see here. Hermanson's 40. Ragland's 44. Van Buren's 43. I'm 46. And she's 88. There's a term for a woman like her. It's old. I don't know what you guys are thinking. It's just old. Our first speaker tonight, I don't know what she's going to sing. I heard she's like the Beverly Sills of Marshalltown. She's got this opera voice that's just wonderful. But she's recently retired from the hospital where she was the volunteer coordinator at the hospital. And we want to welcome Jonah Wagner tonight to say some words about Jane.
Well, I know what you mean, Gary, about being asked to do this. I was in the back of Bob's car in Florida, and Jane said, John, will you do me a big favor? would you be, and please don't say no. So how do you do that? I was going to say, Gary, thank you for that strange introduction. And you may think you're quite the stuff, but I know where you come from. Your father volunteered for me at the hospital for some years. Enough said. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, what an honor it is to be here tonight. Members of the Optimist Club, guests of honor, Jane. It's really an honor tonight to pay tribute to this fine lady and community leader, Jane Bauer. Jane and I have been friends since the 1970s, and I know that she has worked tirelessly for our community and for countless charities and fundraisers, because I've been a part of that in some occasions, but not all. As many of you know, Jane has a lot of charisma and always wants to look good. You ladies out there know how hard it is to prevent sagging. Well, Jane has the answer. She told me to eat till the wrinkles fill out. Jane still got it, but nobody wants to see it. So when I was in Florida this winter with Jane, I said to her, why don't we go to an exercise class? You know, I'm feeling like my body has gotten totally out of shape. And I read in the Island paper, there is an aerobics class for seniors. Just being newly retired and all. So we decided to go. We bent, we twisted, we gyrated, we jumped up and down, and we perspired for an hour. But by the time we got our leotards on, the class was over. I noticed that when Jane and I went shopping at the grocery store while in Sanibel, she had a lot of stuff in her shopping cart that read, for fast relief. She told me that was for Bob. Yeah, right. Hey, how many of you out there have played cards with Jane? Raise your hand. Jane, Jane, Jane. I'm sure Jack Greer will have more to add to this subject. As you know, Jane is Marshalltown's super shopping queen. And for over 5 years, she was the volunteer buyer for the Auxiliaries Hospital gift shop. Now, I don't believe Jane has ever met a store she didn't like. When she enters the store, one of her lines is, smell those yard goods. In fact, her passion for shopping is so extreme, she wore huge holes in the crotch of her slacks and walked around the Chicago gift mart all day and didn't know it until we got back to the hotel that night. Now that's a true story. Those slacks were smoking hot. Audience, turn to your partner next to you. Pull down the bottom lip and have that person next to you check out the color of the skin inside your mouth. It's your right red and lipstick color too. Jane's right again. Oh, hold it. How many of you wore yellow tonight? Raise your hand. Who wore yellow? I see you over here, Eileen. You wore a yellow blouse. Did you know that it drains the color right out of your face at night? I have a friend in Des Moines who had Jane do her colors in the 80s. Her husband actually, and this is the truth, owned a yellow polyester sport coat. Remember the 80s and the polyester sport coats? When she found out you couldn't wear yellow at night, she went straight home and immediately threw his jacket in the trash. However, that did not faze him, and he pulled it out of the trash and wore it another 15 years. That was the truth, too. How many of you thought of Jane while getting dressed tonight? You know, Jane, there's a reason to worry about this boy next to you. Look how he's dressed. Oh, and he's wearing yellow, too. And he has ridiculed his father for years about how he dressed. And you should be ashamed. After working so hard to shape Paul up, after Paul had his colors done, you, Jane, told him to give some of his clothes to my husband. And that was a mistake. Wayne was kicked out of a restaurant in Hawaii wearing one of Paul's shirts. Makes you wonder if Jane has the skill we think she has. Our husbands planned a canoe trip to the Boundary Waters to celebrate John Terry's 50th birthday. In our group was Butch and Carolyn Eggers with their beautiful new wooden canoe. Carol and John Terry, Bob and Jane, and Wayne and me, and our rented aluminum specials. On the third day out, we reached our campsite for the evening, and the men were around the campfire having a glass of wine. Did you think Jane would go on a camping trip and drink beer? Carol Terry and Carolyn Eggers were getting the evening meal ready, and we took turns cooking, by the way. So Jane and I decided that we would freshen up before dinner, not having bathed in several days. As I was leaving to go back to camp, Bob came down to the shore. Jane was standing in the nude looking for her towel. We had been complaining about our bodies. She looked at Bob and told him that she didn't like what she saw. You know, she said, I feel like an old woman. My face is all wrinkled, my boobs hang down to my waist, my butt is bigger than ever, I've got short, fat legs, and my arms are all flabby. Bob over here, who is a man of few words, didn't say a thing. Hey, she said, turning to him, tell me something positive to make me feel better about myself. Well, he said, your eyesight is still good. You know, and perfect timing. Just at that moment, a couple of fishermen came canoeing around the bend and gave a whistle. And that's the truth. And now, will my assistant please come forward to present Jane? Are you there, assistant? With the Boundary Waters Elegant Outfitters Award. Jane receives this award for carrying a perfectly matched flora and fauna toilet seat through the Boundary Waters for 1 whole week. Wow, who does that? Jane does. And everyone that went was thankful too. I could go on talking about experiences I have had with Jane Bauer. You know, Jane, friendship is like wine. It gets better as it grows older. Like everyone else who makes the mistake of getting older, I begin the day with a cup of coffee and the obits. Good thing I checked this morning. You weren't there. You're the best.
I've got some images. Thanks, Jonna. Wonderful job. Next up, we all know him as a gregarious, wild, crazy, outgoing kind of a guy. He doesn't have his pompadour hat on tonight, but I'm looking forward to seeing Jack smile. Next up, Jack Greer.
Well, I can see right now I'm in the wrong group because I don't have anything nice to say about Jane. I'm here to tell you some stories that occurred outside of Marshalltown about Jane, and they are not nice. But before I get that, I want to thank Gary for agreeing to be the master of ceremonies and saying all the nice things that needed to be said. The sad part is that Gary is slowing down a little bit on some of his community activities because he's having trouble with his latest project. That project is trying to alphabetize his M&Ms. I think he's having a real trouble with that one. And Jana, as usual, was very nice, and as I say, I'm not here to be nice to Jane. I'm here to tell you about some things that occur outside Marshall County when Jane goes away. And it wasn't too long ago that Donis and I and Jane and Bob were in New York City. And we were going to all these fancy places. And of course, being with Jane, you had to arrange shopping. You couldn't be in New York City without shopping. And also being with Jane, you had to look for bargains. And so we talked it over and decided to go to Canal Street where all the knockoffs are so Jane could get one of her bargains. And it's a rainy, sleety day on a Saturday morning, and we take the subway down to Canal Street. And while we're down there, Jane, of course, is so pleased because she's found a bargain. It's a purple felt clown's hat, a jester's hat. And of course, she immediately puts it on because the weather's so bad. And we continue to shop, and we have to be at the theater like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we get back on. We go to the theater, and here's Jane walking into the theater and sits down and takes off her clown's hat. And you can imagine, her hair has formed the shape of the clown. And not only that, at the very top of her new shaped hairdo is looks like a bird's nest. And to make matters worse, the guy behind us in the theater taps her on the shoulder and says, "Could you move to one side so I could see around you?" And so that was our introduction to Jane shopping in New York City and her fancy hairdo. But then after the event, because we're going out in the evening, she disappears. Bob doesn't know where she is. Donis doesn't know where it is. I don't know where she is. She's just gone. And she's gone and gone and gone and gone. It seems like forever. And we finally meet out up in the lobby, and Jane and Bob walk down together. And you should see Jane. She has been to the beauty shop. And she comes down and she has rhinestone clips in her hair, holding it up sort of like her clown hat, but not quite so high. And she has glitter glittering down everywhere, and mascara and fancy makeup, and she has glitter everywhere that I could see. And I don't know about the parts that I couldn't see. I'll have to ask Bob about those. But anyway, there she is. And what does she say to me? I mean, she's one to always put you on the spot. And so Donis and I are standing there, and she says, "Well, Jack, what do you think of me?" Now, what am I supposed to say? And so I at least got the notion and the good sense to say, "Jane, I've never seen you look quite like that." And that's the way Jane Bauer goes to New York City. She goes to these fancy hairdressers. She comes up with these rhinestones and this glitter, and she wants her friends to comment on how she looks. It's a tough deal to be in New York City with Jane Bauer, let me tell you. But the nice thing is that you can be assured that when you're in Marshalltown, you aren't going to see Jane Bauer in that kind of a hairdo.
I've got comments for everybody up here. And I had some for Jonathan. But holy cow, what an outfit. Jane, you trained him well. Wow. Taught him everything he knows about fashion. Next up, I'm going to let Jonathan Hull do some singing for us. Fantastic.
That's later.
All right.
Do some roasting. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And Jane, I will be addressing you, or should I say undressing you, from a ladies' fashion and shopping point of view. You asked me to do that. And so when Jane came into the store to ask me to do this, I said, the only way I'm going to agree to do this is if you personally come in and make me look smashing for tonight's event. I want to be totally color coordinated. So, did you say this is muted on my color chart? Pretty close. But that's exactly how I got to know Jane. When I moved back here 30 years ago to Marshalltown and got into our business, I didn't know squat about women's fashion or shopping habits. In fact, I wasn't even married at that time. But I can remember these women coming into the store with this little pamphlet full of these color chips, and they were walking around, and I was thinking, are these interior design people, you know, trying to tell me that I need to do a little bit more with my store? So I go up and I said, what are you guys doing? Well, I'm trying to match your clothes to the colors that Jane said I can wear, but I'll come back when Jane can meet me here. And I was saying at that point, who and what in the hell is Jane? But I soon became acquainted with Jane because she literally would come in and meet her clients there and help them with their color charts, match clothing, so they looked great. And it was wonderful because you stood there, it was like watching sheep follow a shepherd. Everything she said they took as the gospel truth. All I had to do was stand there and take their money. But you know, the other thing, Jane, she is great at putting bugs in men's ears to come in, especially in the fur department. She loves to look at the furs, and she'll come in and it's, oh, Jonathan, this is just perfect for so-and-so. It's just, you know, and I remember one time she came in and saw this, I think it was a beaver stroller or something like that. Oh, Jonathan, this is just perfect. I'm going to have to work on the husband, though. He's such a cheap ass. And I said, do I know who it is? Yes, it's Cynthia's husband, Craig. Didn't know you were going to get roasted, did you? But he did come in and buy it, so that's good. But Jane is certainly one customer you don't need to help because she knows exactly what she wants for herself or for who she's shopping for. She's taught me that shopping is it's a woman's thing. It's a contact sport like football. Women enjoy the scrimmage, the noisy crowds, the danger of being trampled to death, and the ecstasy of the purchase. I've learned that shopping is cheaper than a psychiatrist, and that Jane likes her money right where she can see it, hanging in her closet. But over the years, Jane and I have worked on many a style show together and a lot of fundraisers for both Marshalltown, downtown, and for the city as a whole. So I have to tell you, every time you come into the store, I'm saying to myself, is she here to spend money or ask for money? But we've had a lot of fun. But I have one quote before I get into the next part of my presentation that I thought you would like. You know, women, they do not dress for men. They dress for themselves and for each other. If they were going to dress for men, they would just walk around naked all the time. Okay, so when you came in, I said, I've got to come up with a song for Jane. It's just, can you hear that? All right. So I thought I'm gonna do a song, and it's called The Ballad of Jane Bauer. And it goes like this. Come listen to my story about a gal named Jane, a Marshalltown girl who's found her claim to fame. She was sitting at home just a-sipping on a beer. She got a phone call saying she's Citizen of the Year. Famous, that is. Movie star. Can I have your autograph? Well, first time I met Jane, she had this color chart. She wouldn't buy anything unless it hit the mark. I said, this is crazy, what a funny way to start. I walked around the corner and relieved myself with a art fade, that is. Natural gas. Lethal weapon. Well, first thing you know, Jane's a customer and a friend. Now she comes in and she'll spend, spend, spend. I love her family and especially her, 'cause they all come in and buy the real fur, that is. Roadkill raccoon. Minced mink. Foxy ladies. Well, now it's time to say goodnight to Jane and all her kin. I would like to thank you folks for kindly dropping in. You're all invited back that's near to this locality to listen to people like me with a low mentality. Take shoes off. Sit a spell. Have another beer. Y'all come back now, you hear? Oops.
Yep, Hermanson, you get to follow that. Although you dress the same, I doubt if you sing the same. Don't get in a hurry. I got a few things to say about you, John. You get a little more attention. You're a past winner. You won a number of years ago. How old were you, 16? He won this award quicker than he opens his store on 13th Street. Anticipation. But anyway, Jane, you know, maybe you should get some training from John there. He won this thing a long time ago. Take a little training from him, a little efficiency of how to reach your lifetime goals a little quicker. Ooh, 56 years later. Way to get there, sister. Wow. No, but really, I mean, Jane is very, very, very fond of John. And it's for one reason. He increases her quality of life in a huge, huge way. He's the only orthodontist in the nation who still services wooden teeth. And he's got the splinters to prove it. With that, John Hermanson.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. Let's see here. I was actually thinking of, I thought it would actually be kind of fun to come up with kind of like a goofy outfit, you know, something kind of gaudy, pick some colors that didn't go together, as kind of a pimp to Jane. And then I thought, well, yeah, Hull will probably do that. And then I thought, well, you know, this is really her special night. And so I thought, really, she deserves better. So, knowing how she would probably prefer that I do it, I was planning a trip to Chicago. I was going to find some, like, you know, some fancy boutique, sort of a men's clothing store, and I was going to find some really fancy clothes to wear. And as it turns out, the timing turned out really well for me because for Christmas this year, actually, who was it? John referenced my dad's wardrobe just a little bit earlier, and it's been waning, struggling in recent years. And so Patty and I decided to hire Jane actually to go through his closet with him and discard some of the things that were maybe a little bit out of fashion and out of favor. And we figured this process would take about 5 minutes to just pitch it all. Jane actually spent, am I incorrect, you spent about 5 hours over the course of 2 days going through my dad's current wardrobe. And we were a little bit confused by that. It seemed to get a bit worse when a few days later, Jane actually called me, and she told me, correct me if I'm wrong, but you called me and said, there are a few things in your dad's wardrobe that we think would look good on you, John. So I'll cut to the chase. I mean, there was a point at which I was a little bit concerned about that, and I thought, my dad's hand-me-downs, really? That's going to happen? And but when I got over there and I saw what she had handpicked from my dad's wardrobe for me to wear, complete with the corsage that she personally put together for me. Thank you, Jane. Thank you for not letting these go to the discard pile. So, based on tonight and this outstanding turnout, clearly Jane has a lot of good friends. But I'd like to see a show of hands in the audience tonight. Who knows who Jane's best friend is? Can you raise your hand if you know who Jane's best friend is? There are 2 over there, 3, 4. Your hands up, you know? You learned at dinner. This is Jane's Christmas card from this past year. The family, you guys don't even know? Shane, seriously? You know? Well, thank goodness someone knows. This is the Christmas card to my best friend's dear family. I am Jane's best friend. And I am proud to say it. Jane has been introducing me to people as her best friend for about a year, 2 years maybe? About 2 years. She introduced me, in fact, I found out earlier this week that she introduced my mom to someone, Karen Gregory. Introduced my mom to Karen Gregory as my, what was that?
Best friend's mom.
Yeah, as my best friend's mom. Yeah, my mom is her best friend's mom. That's me. So anyhow, I truly am her best friend, and it's great, but it's been kind of new to me. I'm lucky to have a friend at all, let alone be a best friend. And so it's been an experience for me to learn about what it's like to be a best friend, let alone to be Jane Bauer's best friend. And I've learned that there are a lot of really nice perks that come with being Jane's best friend, actually. At the same time, there are some responsibilities that come with being Jane's best friend. Tonight, my plan is to tell you a little bit about what it's like being Jane's best friend by giving you sort of a flavor of a day in the life of being Jane's best friend. Okay? So a typical day may start 3 a.m. maybe with a text message. Actually, it'd typically be more of a string of text messages. Apple constricts you to a certain number of characters on a text message. Jane surpasses that by 3 or 4 times on just about every text message. So they come in all at once. It's like da-ding, 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 da-ding. You get like 4 or 5 text messages at a time. Actually, I'm going to back up just for a second. I've known Jane since I was a kid, but they say you don't really get to know someone until you've worked with them. And so it really hasn't been until these past 3-4 years maybe that Jane and I have worked with one another. We worked on the Franklin Field Gateway project, 13th Street, and on the public art, Marshalltown Public Art Committee. And so I've gotten to know her over these past few years. And it was during that first project that when you're working with someone, you need to be able to get a hold of them when you've got a question or something like this. So I would I'd want to get in touch with Jane. And, well, she claimed to have a cell phone, but she never answered it. I think she might have shared it with Bob, but I don't know if it was like one of those bag phones or what it was. It really didn't matter because she never answered the thing, so she might as well not have one. What was kind of cool is I got to know Bob pretty well because I'd call the house all the time, and Bob would be I'd say, is Jane there? Well, oh, I hate to tell you, John, but she just left. But she should be back in a couple hours. She had a meeting and something, and why don't you call after that? So okay, a couple hours later I call, and oh golly, she was here for 5 minutes, and then she had bridge. If you call back between 4:47 and 4:53, maybe you can catch her. Because I know she's got Hawthorne Club, and then she's volunteering at the Veterans Home, and then she's got, we've got to be at dinner at the club at 6, so if you can call in between there, I think you'll be good, but, hell, I don't know where she is. I figure she's got to come home eventually. So the good thing was I got to talk to Bob and get to know him, but there came a time when I felt that it was important that Jane actually got a cell phone. And so I really encouraged this, and I thought that it would really simplify my life. In the words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Jane eventually did get an iPhone, and she started keeping it with her, which was good because I could contact her when I needed to about a question about this or that. Problem was, Jane could contact me whenever she wanted from anywhere, like at 3 a.m. So this would be the text. Bob is sleeping peacefully. My asthma continues to act up, so I haven't slept in 6 weeks. Fortunately, though, my insomnia leaves me with more time for writing letters. I've just finished my 3,000th handwritten letter requesting money for Franklin Field. I think I'll write 100 more before lying down to rest for a few minutes. I hope you are sleeping well. 8:30 a.m. We meet up at our impact meeting, Marshalltown Public Art Committee. She, of course, is dressed to the nines and looking better rested than I. After exchanging pleasantries, Jane confesses to me that part of the reason she had trouble sleeping was because she was so frustrated with the 13th Street District Committee because we'd only sold 297 of 300 raffle tickets last spring. I assure her that we will perform better on future fundraisers. At 10 a.m. I receive a text from Jane. Cynthia, darling, your father and I insist on taking you out for dinner on Tuesday for your birthday. Blah, blah, blah. I don't even bother letting Jane know when she does this, when she sends these like this. I just forward them on to Cynthia or Mandy or whoever. At 10:15 I receive a text. from Jane. I'm so sorry and embarrassed about accidentally sending you that text message meant for Cynthia. Of course, all caps. The so sorry and embarrassed will be in all caps and exclamation points, and then there will be about 8 to 10 exclamation points afterwards. If you know Jane at all, if you've had any correspondence with her, you know that she loves all caps and exclamation points. Does anyone know that? I always, and underlines, yes, and I always try and make a point to include, and I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I always try and make a point of including all caps and exclamation points in all of our correspondences with one another. 11 o'clock. Jane calls me to confirm our noon meeting at my office. She wants to know if she can bring me lunch. I tell her she doesn't need to do that, but she insists. She wants to know what I like to eat. I say I'm not picky. Whatever you want to bring me will be just fine. Noon. Jane shows up to my office with lunch. I should have suggested maid rights. She brings me homemade stewed prunes, cooked carrots, mashed potatoes, pureed green beans, Jell-O, and cottage cheese. We have a very productive meeting. She updates me on the status of the Dancing with the Stars event and tells me that she's going to be seeing Mike Schlesinger later in the day, and she thinks that she might be able to get us a deal on newspaper publicity for the event if she wears a low-cut blouse for the encounter. She'll do anything for cause. 1:20 p.m., I receive another text from Jane. Mandy, my dear, how are you feeling? Are you blah, 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 blah. 1:21, forward text message to Mandy. 1:30, received text from Jane, in all caps. So sorry and embarrassed. Now mind you, after you've received a few of these misdirected messages from Jane, you start to carefully choose your own words when sending messages to her. I really don't think she knows how to forward a message, but just in case, I'm always pretty careful now about what I send to her, and I think you all would be wise to do the same. 2 o'clock. Searching through my project folders for material that might be useful for Jane's roast, I come across some of Jane's Excel -1.0 files from the Franklin Field project. Jane's Day, and some of you, I've noticed with the age of the crowd, maybe this isn't all that funny, but in the 80s there was this thing that was like, became mainstream called the computer. This is Jane's Excel document right here. We had lists of potential donors. We had lists of donors. We had lists, in different categories of donations and this and that, and we had to alphabetize them. And she would have these lists, and she didn't even use whiteout. I mean because the paper is yellow. I don't know, but unbelievable. How she keeps anything straight, I have no idea. Carolyn Anderson and I really worked hard with her to try and digitize some of this stuff. And but anyway, 5 o'clock, I arrive home. I check the mail. I've got a note from Jane thanking me for I don't know what. I mean, who writes a better thank you note than Jane Bauer? Compared to what she did, I did nothing. Yet she goes on with this beautiful handwriting, and I feel so inadequate just reading it. From 10 to 10:50 p.m., I find myself engaged in a text message exchange regarding her latest fundraiser idea for 13th Street, while trying to watch SportsCenter and at the same time entertain Patty's advances. Jane tells me that she is reasonably pleased with the Dancing with the Stars, that $40,000 was pretty good, but that she thinks that our next fundraiser needs to raise at least $80,000. At 10:15, Patty asks me if I'm romantically involved with Jane. At 11:15, I receive a text message from Jane again. Good night, all caps, best friend, with about 8 exclamation points. And that's a pretty good way to end the day, and so it doesn't become 11:15 here while I'm still talking. We'll transition here. Well, hello. We all know that when she answers the phone. Well, hello. There is absolutely no one more deserving of this recognition than Jane Bauer. She's an absolute phenom. At an age where most of her peers are content to focus on their aches and pains, Jane keeps charging ahead, working to make our community better. She can run circles around me. She inspires me every day. I think she hangs out with guys half her age because nobody her own age can keep up with her. Now, I know there are other theories why she hangs out with guys half her age, but I wanted to leave some material for the rest of the guys. Her creativity, her positivity. She thinks that she makes you think that anything is possible, and then she makes it happen. Her sense about things, and her endless drive and her passion for this community absolutely qualify her for the Marshalltown Citizen of the Year, if not the decade or the century. Jane Bauer, 2014 Marshalltown Citizen of the Year. It's an honor to know you, and it's an even much greater honor to be your best friend. Now I have a presentation here. I meant to take this off earlier and I forgot. In here I have a locket. And here I have the other side. Yeah, that, baby.
It is fun to be at the end of the line hearing that many of the things I wanted to talk about have all been brought up, because I'll be honest, I was scared to death to bring them up. I would first like to say congratulations to Jane. This is a great honor and recognition. But then again, I've heard you've been nominated about 17 times, but about time you won. So that's good. That's good to get that. But no, you are absolutely deserving of this award, and I've lived in town now about 12 years, and frankly, I'm getting kind of tired of hearing about all the good things you're doing. You're making us all look bad. But seriously, honored to speak. Thank you. Many of you may be wondering how or why I was picked to speak. Me too, I'm wondering, but hopefully I'll figure this out. Yes, our relationship does go back a long way. Me and my family's relationship started back when Jane, before Jane was the high society, world-traveling philanthropist Jane Bauer that you've all heard about. My mother Bonnie and Jane first came to know each other back when they were teachers back in Minnetonka, Minnesota. She was a home economics teacher, believe that or not. She doesn't sew any of her clothes. But they both lived in this small, same little apartment building. They shared a lot of meals. It's an apartment building that she wouldn't be caught in now. No pool, no granite, colors are lousy, but it worked at that time for them. She is a good cook, though. She's a very good cook. She doesn't necessarily cook these great elite gourmet dishes, though. She cooks casseroles. We have come in our family to nickname them the kick-asseroles. And we've given her a dish to honor that. Have her cook you some goulash sometime. That's good. But my mom and Jane became best friends. Sorry, John. As did the couples, Jane and her husband Bob, and my mom Bonnie and her husband Kurt, my father, who's here with us tonight, right over here. But then Jane came back to Marshalltown to run the family farm with Bob, and she continued to be great friends with my mother, and our family and our relationship continues today. And that's. Did I end up in Marshalltown because of Jane? No. But Well, when Heather talked about moving to Marshalltown and having heard Jane talk about it for my entire life, I said, how could I not come here? Jane is an extremely creative person, has a very keen eye, and you've heard numerous comments already on her color chart abilities. See if I can expand on that a little bit from a different angle. If I could quote her, the website of the company she worked for, the right color in the right clarity, worn in the wrong color combination is not effective. John, your talk was not that good. Not effective. But talk about, I can understand ladies shopping, but talk about it when you're a kid and a boy growing up. I not only had to worry about matching, I had to worry about what shade of purple I put on. I had to worry about if the shirt was bringing out the color in my eyes. If she gave me a scarf, I looked at my mom, and my mom would just say, wear it, Jane gave it to you. It looks good. It was stressful growing up as a boy there. She used to say that I was the classic dark and handsome. When it was dark, I was handsome. Well, I listened to her though. She gave me a lot of pointers, and thanks to Jane, I now buy my own ties. Her keen eye has made her a very good home decorator. She's great with color, she knows where to hang pictures, she knows just how high to do that. There are many of you who have pictures that are too high in your house. You know who you are. She makes very good recommendations. Just the other day we had her over to our new house to help with colors, decor. She gave me this recommendation. Walk around the room sometime naked and see if any inspiration comes your way. What colors might be good for you? So I tried it. And sure enough, the next day the neighbors brought over some drapes. We hung them up, they looked great. Great advice, Jane. Thanks. There is no bigger fan of Marshalltown than Jane Bauer, you've heard that, but have you ever noticed? She's never here. She's always gone. I'm glad she must have had a hair appointment today, or she might not have ever shown back up here. She has become quite a world traveler. She's not in her condo at Clear Lake or her condo at Sanibel. She's cruising the world somewhere. And rumor has it that she has developed quite a fetish for cemeteries. Apparently during trips, she'll make everyone stop and look at cemeteries or funeral processions. I'm not sure what this means, but knowing Jane and the group of people she travels with, she probably just wants to make sure the accommodations are acceptable in case one of them keels over. In fact, I heard that she and Bob bought plots up at Riverside, but then she had to buy another one because Bob's was facing the wrong direction. But Jane is one of the most thoughtful and caring people we've ever met. We've just heard that, and no, Jane, you do not have to send me a thank you card for doing this. They are great, as John mentioned. She's the great combination of down-to-earth, but yet combined with high society. We would visit the farm when I was young, learn about cows and corn. I'd eat these funny little loose meat hamburgers. And then she would take my mom downtown to shop for fur coats. She can babysit her 7 grandchildren in 1 week, take a European vacation the next. She can bake me a birthday cake and then tell me what to wear that night for dinner. She can devote hours working on fundraisers for 13th Street, the Roundhouse, the Assistance League, many more, but then show up dressed to the nines to be a wonderful hostess. Sorry, she can do it all. That kind of makes you gag, doesn't it? Well, don't need more jokes, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that unfortunately my mother is unable to be here today. She passed away in 2005. She died at home in hospice with her immediate family present, but she also asked to have Jane there. And Jane came without hesitation. Jane, I know she's watching us now, and I'll bet she'd love to be here. But Jane, you are the Citizen of the Year and truly deserve it for many, many, many reasons. But for me and my family, you are a second mother to me and a friend for life. And congratulations.
Did I hear you say you thought she was a hoarder too? Wow. That's a nice setup for a sentimental sentence. Wow. Well, we've got a last roaster down here, who I've got to believe is on a suicide mission. For those who don't know, Craig is Jane's son-in-law. Now, I know he had reservations about roasting Jane. Trust me, he had a lot of reservations about roasting Jane. He wanted to go a lot farther. But I told him, we can't go farther than roasting. This isn't Eastwick or Salem in 1692. So with that, Craig, bring us home, buddy.
Thank you. Right off the bat, I just want to say, John, congratulations for being the best friend. I got the same Christmas card that said, "Why did you marry my daughter, you prick?" And I also was told I only had 2.5 minutes. So I'll try to maybe add a little to it. Dear Jane has obviously been a wonderful person. I want to briefly just say thank you to everybody here who maybe at one point was behind asking Jane to be part of a committee, sit on a board, do something just to keep her engaged and ask for her time. Because obviously it's taken a lot of volunteering for her to win this award. So I think 2 things came of that. 1, Marshalltown's a better place, and 2, I'm probably still married because I don't have that bitch at my house all the time. Now I'm sorry I said that. I noticed when Jane invited the grandkids here that I'm like, God, maybe that's because I have to watch what I say. When I was practicing this earlier, I did keep it clean, but I just couldn't help letting one out, and I can already see my daughter staring at me. And unlike Steve, I'm not full of gushy good things to say here at the end of the night. All I have to say, and I think this is a tribute to what our MC has said tonight, what a wonderful guy Gary's been to do all the things that she's asked.
So how long's your list there, rebuttal girl? She's going to claim she's going to be quick. She's going to. You're going to speak for a short period of time? Sure. Welcome to the first time. Look out for the millennium's coming. We'll give Jane here, our Citizen of the Year, an opportunity to tell us what she thinks and any rebuttal she might have.
I am overwhelmed. I really, in thinking about tonight and preparing for tonight, it was, now who would be willing to stand up here and really talk, be comfortable talking? And all I could think about was we've got to find some performers in Marshalltown. I think I went way beyond that and really found performers. So I do thank my roasters. I thank Gary, our MC tonight, and I thank all of you for being here, my dear family and all you friends. Thank you, thank you. I do have a few things to say, and I did bring a shopping bag with me tonight. So I'm going to dig it out. My first thought in dealing with tonight was finding someone who I thought could really make the evening flow. Well, Gary Shout was the man. And Gary really stated about my calling him and asking him all these favors, but he didn't tell what the last thing is going to be. It's going to really be the best. He's going to be performing his from the past, world famous surfing act that he used to do called Wipeout on May 3rd
for another fundraiser, the Bobcat Ball. And you should all attend this, very casual. But you don't want to miss Gary surfing away out on that dance floor. So Gary, that's it. I promise I won't be asking again. I feel that I owe Gary so much that I thought, I've got to gift him. And you know, I really believe in re-gifting. So.
Can I have the BFF necklace?
He doesn't get my necklace. No, no, no. But one night, I really convinced him that I needed the magnetic sign advertising the Roundhouse for my car instead of his car, because I thought I traveled around the town much more than Gary. So the time has come, Gary, where you get your magnetic sign back. And now he gets to take it off when he goes to the car wash instead of the Bauer family. Well, Jonna told you about all the fun that we've had. We've spent hours together, days together. When she talked about our camping trip, she didn't tell that the four of us, the Waggers and the Bowers, had to share one small tent. And the Terrys and the Agers all had their private tents. So when one would turn over at nighttime, all four of us had to turn over. So we not only shared good times, but we also shared Bailey's Irish Cream. It really eased the pain of being on the ground and thinking about having to haul that backpack the next day when we were portaging. Now, not only did we have to carry all of our food and the canoe, but those few clothes that we were supposed to take. Well, we were told, you know, dress like you belong in the wilderness. You know, natural, outdoor type colors. So I really am gifting to Jonna my conservative, very conservative rowing hat. And when I appeared wearing my hat the first day, this was 20 years ago, Bob was absolutely shocked. Besides the toilet seat that I had in my backpack to pull out my wonderful hat, he just couldn't believe it. So Jonna, enjoy the hat. Now, to think that my attorney, Jack Greer, a trial lawyer, was so hesitant to take on the challenge tonight of this task. He said, humor is not my forte. As if I'm a Carol Burnett. And so it took him several days of deliberation before he agreed to do tonight. Well, I had a hunch I knew he would tell the New York story, but I was so anxious to hear how he would describe that hat, because I knew that he was very much into details. That trial lawyer, he's got to have the facts right. Well, I don't know what Jack is going to do with his gift. But after, he said, you know, it wasn't that long ago. I can't believe he said that. It was 15 years ago that we took that trip. So the hat has been on the shelf collecting dust for 15 years. So Jack, enjoy my hat. Isn't it a beauty? And he'll look so good in it. Well, Jonathan, he had lots to say. I knew that Jonathan would come up with some stories. I knew he had some information on me. If he didn't, he was going to make them up. So I do have to say that Jonathan is an awesome, absolutely an awesome salesman. He sold my husband 3 fur coats in 10 minutes, 2 for daughters, 1 for a granddaughter. Now, that was quite an accomplishment. So, Jonathan, it's now my turn to gift you with fur, and it's really fur that none of the men in our family would wear. I have a Russian fur hat. I'm trying to think what it's called now. Oh yes, it's definitely sable. And it's right from Russia, and you will look so great in this hat. It's actually called a Ushanka hat. So, oh, Jonathan, oh, you just look stunning. Now, the secret to enjoying community involvement is to really hang out with young people. Oh, they're so full of life and energy and great ideas. Now, my young, bursting with energy best friend, John Hermanson, is the most dedicated, detailed partner in crime I've ever had the privilege to work with. I thought I could learn from John that it was an easy thing to not eat. You know, John, he forgets about eating. And so his office staff keeps nourishment for him. And so I thought, oh, I'll learn that from John. Well, it didn't work very well. So knowing that he was an orthodontist, I said, John, would you consider wiring my jaw closed? Well, John is so professionally perfect, he declined. Because I think he is so perfect, I'm gifting him a book. And the title of the book is Perfect, the Encyclopedia of Perfection. It states in the book that he can find out how to deskunk his dog. He can find out how many M&Ms there are in a container, and how to choose the perfect stall when he walks into a bathroom and there's more than 2 there. So, John, enjoy the book. Now, of all my fine roasters up here, it is Steve Van Buren, who I have known the longest because I met him hours after he was born. I have delighted in watching him grow into the outstanding man he is today. As a little guy, when the Van Burens would visit Marshalltown, his mom would say, now Jane, Stephen likes to eat often. Every 20 to 30 minutes he likes to eat. The kitchen must always stay open. And you know, I really thought Bonnie was kidding me. Not kidding. That kitchen, we were busy all the time feeding Stephen. And when he got to be a teenager, he absolutely loved Taylor's Made Rights. He liked Zeno's Pizza, and he could eat one of those really thick steaks from Rube's with all the trimmings. Well, Steve, I'm just so delighted that you're in Marshalltown, but I want to gift you tonight with just a little snack that you can enjoy from Taylor's Made Right. I just never want him to get hungry. I wasn't real sure what my son-in-law would do tonight. It was quite shocking. Now, every family needs a spark plug and an energetic, enthusiastic personality, and that is Craig Ragland. But I do want you all to know that he is an ordained minister. He got his certificate through the internet. So if you want a real serious person, be sure you contact Craig Ragland. Now, Craig is Mr. Entertainment, and our family really is fortunate to have him. After Cynthia and Craig decided to come to Marshalltown, or I should say when Cynthia signed the contract to come to Marshalltown, Craig was like, ugh, 5 years will probably be plenty. Well, 16 years later, they're still here. And you know, I can really understand why. When you've got a mother-in-law who gives all these suggestions on family improvement and just drops in when she promised she would never stop unless she was invited. No wonder Craig is still here. Well, Craig was from Detroit, and if anyone knows Craig well, they all know he is a real Michigan State fan. So when I got down to how to gift Craig tonight, oh, I just knew. I thought, what is it going to be? Well, it had to be something Michigan State. I know he will treasure this gift. It's quite large. Gary, I need some help. He is going to get a one-piece Michigan State Spartan pair of pajamas that have the footies in, but a onesie. Craig, I can't wait until you wear this. Now, the best part of my life has been sharing it with my husband, Bob. He's always supported my risk-taking, my community involvement, and my crazy ideas. We will soon be celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary. We've shared adventure, challenges, laughter, and a lot of love in all these years. Our biggest success, though, is parenting 3 wonderful children who have extended our family to 15. We are extremely proud parents and really, really strong, really proud grandparents. We really look forward to our future. May our family continue to have good times together, and may our legacy live on. Thank you all tonight. A night that I will always remember. Thank you.